Chapter 91 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bro, Xuanhuan needs that kidney now, so don't try to stop me. I know what I'm doing, and I know my own body. It's just one kidney. I can't just stand by and watch her die. Xuanhuan had just woken up when he overheard a woman's voice, a little whiny. He quickly absorbed the story and the original owner's memories and said, "Okay, if you've made up your mind, go for it." Since the original owner didn't want to get involved with this sister, he'd let her do what she wanted. Zhao Shiyu's eyes lit up at his words. She didn't know why her brother was being so agreeable this time, but it was good that he wasn't standing in her way. She asked again, "So, you're okay with it?" "Yeah, you're not a kid anymore. You gotta take responsibility for your own choices." "Okay, thanks, bro. I'm calling Ayuan now," Zhao Shiyu said, and then happily ran out of the room. Xuanhuan watched her go, his expression darkening. On the other end of the line, Song Qiyuan was surprised to receive a call from Zhao Shiyu. "Shiyu. Did you say your brother agreed to donate a kidney to Xuanhuan?" "Yeah, Ayuan. I'm on my way now, so I'll be at the hospital soon. I can get the doctor to schedule the surgery ASAP. Xuanhuan can be saved." "Shiyu, thank you so much. I'm so happy." "Hey, no need to thank me. Xuanhuan's your sister, so she's like a sister to me too. It's the least I can do." "Okay, I'll wait for you at the hospital entrance." "Alright. Drive safe." After hanging up, Song Qiyuan's smile faded. He had thought Zhao Xuanhuan might consider Zhao Shiyu's health and offer to donate himself, but he had just agreed with her donating, sure enough he thought. No matter how much he loves this sister, when it comes to his own interests, he'll always choose himself. Xuanhuan, oblivious to Song Qiyuan's thoughts, sat on the comfy sofa and carefully reviewed the plot of this world. It was another world derived from a novel. Xuanhuan's original owner was Zhao Xuanhuan, the heroine's brother. Logically speaking, as the heroine's brother, he should have been living the good life, with no regrets, but the problem was that this was a world of pain, like the kind of melodramatic trash where the hero emotionally and physically abuses the heroine, ruining her family, only to then realize his true feelings and chase after her. As the heroine's brother, the original owner was basically a martyr. The original owner, Zhao Xuanhuan, was the CEO of Mtlno Group, a self-made billionaire. He was born into an average and happy family. When he was 16, Zhao's father saw a kid drowning in the river and jumped in to save him without hesitation. The kid was rescued, but Zhao's father died from exhaustion. Zhao's mother was already in poor health, and the news devastated her. She died after 2 years of suffering, leaving only a pair of kids and some property. At the time, Zhao Xuanhuan was just 18, and Zhao Shiyu was 12. They had lost both their parents in just 2 years, and they were lost and heartbroken. Fortunately, the original owner was already an adult. They didn't have to go to an orphanage or find guardians. As the older brother, he took on the responsibility of caring for his sister. He had just finished his college entrance exams at the time, and he had scored the highest in the whole province. To take care of his sister, he gave up going to Tsinghua, his dream school, and stayed at a university, which was close to home. The siblings had lost their parents and only had each other. They relied on each other and kept each other going. Later, the original owner started a business with some classmates in college, did some small-time stuff, made some money, and founded Mtlno Group after graduating. It was as if Zhao Shiyu's health was like Zhao's mother's. She was always getting minor illnesses. After their parents died, the original owner had always been hyper-aware of her health and took all the pressure on himself. Xuanhuan felt a sense of déjà vu. The original owner reminded him a lot of Xuanhuan from the first world he went to. Unfortunately, the relatives they had weren't the same. The original owner and his sister had lived a mostly peaceful life. Zhao Shiyu wasn't in good health, so she was always quiet and well-behaved. At least, that's how it was before Song Qiyuan appeared. When Zhao Shiyu was a sophomore, something happened. She was in a car accident when she went out to eat with her dorm mates. 4 girls, 1 seriously injured, 2 slightly injured, and 1 died on the spot. When the original owner heard about it, his heart almost stopped, and he rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, Zhao Xiyu was just slightly injured. After that, she developed PTSD and took a year off before returning to school. The second year after returning to school, Zhao Xiyu's personality started to become more cheerful. She had been traumatized by the accident, and her previously quiet personality became even more withdrawn. The original owner was happy to see her come out of her shell, but not long after, he noticed something was up. His sister seemed to be in love. The original owner didn't meddle. He just sent someone to check the guy out. His name was Song Qiyuan. He went to the same school as Zhao Xiyu. He was good to her. Aside from his family, he seemed pretty good. The only thing that bothered the original owner was that Song Qiyuan was the boyfriend of Zhao Xiyu's dead roommate. Still, the original owner didn't do anything. Zhao Xiyu didn't tell him anything, and he just played along. A year later, Zhao Xiyu told the original owner that she had a boyfriend and introduced Song Qiyuan to him. The two seemed very happy together. Seeing his sister smiling, the original owner genuinely wished them well. He could tell that Zhao Xiyu was serious about Song Qiyuan. Whether they ended up together or not, he wouldn't get involved for now. Another year passed, and their relationship was still going strong. The original owner was happy for his sister, until one day, Zhao Xiyu came to him and said she wanted to donate a kidney to Song Qiyuan's sister. The original owner thought he had misheard her. After clarifying, he learned the whole story. It turned out that Song Qiyuan's sister was sick and needed a kidney transplant, but there was no match in the hospital database. When Zhao Xiyu learned that she and Song Xuanhuan had the same blood type, she secretly got tested to see if she was a match, and she was. So, that's how it got to this point. Zhao Xiyu had been in poor health since she was a kid. The original owner was determined not to allow it and promised to use his connections to find a kidney, but after months, no kidney could be found, which is why he had walked into this scene. Now, Song Xuanhuan's condition couldn't wait any longer, and Zhao Xiyu was freaking out. In the original plot, the original owner was against his sister donating a kidney because of her health. Because of this, the harmonious relationship between the siblings had been damaged. In the end, the original owner gave in. Considering his sister's health, he got tested to see if he was a match and donated his kidney to Song Xuanhuan. Chapter 92 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But Xuanhuan just agreed. If she was so eager, why should he second-guess her, stop her, and end up being the bad guy? Zhao Xiyu stayed in the hospital after that day. Xuanhuan settled into running the Zhao family business and was up to speed quickly. A week later, Xuanhuan got a call from Zhao Xiyu. Bro, you haven't called, and you don't seem to care about me. Don't you love me anymore? I'm having surgery tomorrow. You have to come. Okay, Xuanhuan said. It would be interesting to see Song Qiyuan, the guy who wrecked the original owner's life. When Xuanhuan arrived, Song Qiyuan was already there, murmuring sweet nothings to Zhao Xiyu, who was practically glowing. They stopped talking when Xuanhuan walked in. Xuanhuan, hey, Song Qiyuan greeted him with a smile. Zhao Xiyu chimed in, bro, you made it. Yep. Zhao Xiyu, having been in the hospital for a while, was scheduled for surgery the next day. Xuanhuan watched her, her face radiant, like she wasn't worried about the surgery at all. He didn't comment. The original owner was so done with this sister. His plan was to let her do whatever, and he didn't care. He was focused on getting revenge on Song Qiyuan. Xuanhuan studied Song Qiyuan. This was the guy Zhao Xiyu was so hung up on, forgiving him for everything. Xuanhuan figured his looks had a lot to do with it. He was handsome, with strong features, sharp eyebrows, and eyes that sparkled. In this world, he was definitely considered a catch, but compared to the people from Xuanhuan's world, he wasn't even close. Still, in this little world, it was easy to charm a sweet, lovesick girl like Zhao Xiyu. The system piped up, sensing Xuanhuan's thoughts. Host, the original owner was hot, young, and promising, the kind of guy everyone wanted to marry. Xuanhuan was taken aback. He really didn't give a damn about looks. Ignoring the system, Xuanhuan hung around the hospital for a bit, exchanged a few words with Zhao Xiyu, and then left without even visiting Song Xuanhuan. the patient who needed the kidney transplant. Song Xuelin wasn't Song Qiyuan's real sister, she was his stepfather's daughter from a previous marriage. They weren't close. Song Qiyuan was putting on a show of worry for Zhao Shiyu's benefit. It was all part of his revenge, self-righteous revenge, revenge against Zhao Shiyu. Song Qiyuan's background wasn't pretty. His mom was a bartender who got pregnant after a one-night stand. She knew who his father was, but instead of getting an abortion, she figured she could use the kid to get some money and maybe even a position out of him. But when she confronted his father, holding Song Qiyuan as a baby, she was just threatened. Song Qiyuan's father, Xuanhuan, was a son-in-law who owed everything to his wife's family. There was no way he'd acknowledge a son that would ruin him, so, Song's mother had to slink away, and later, she left town under his threat. Her plan failed, so she took it out on Song Qiyuan, beating and scolding him. She saw him as a burden, costing her a job and just eating her out of house and home. Things didn't get better until Song Qiyuan was 12 and Song's mother met her current husband. After they married, she at least hit Song Qiyuan less. Song Qiyuan's childhood was bleak, but there was a glimmer of light. Lin Wei, Zhao Shiyu's roommate who died in a car accident, they were neighbors. Lin Wei's parents were loving, but Song's mom abused him constantly. Back then, none of the other kids wanted to play with Song Qiyuan. Only Lin Wei did, because they were neighbors and she felt bad for him. From then on, Lin Wei became Song Qiyuan's ideal woman. Song Qiyuan moved away after his mother remarried, but he and Lin Wei reconnected in college. By then, he was no longer the quiet kid who was afraid to speak up, having grown into a handsome and brilliant student. He was a different person. Song Qiyuan pursued Lin Wei, and they quickly became a couple, but their happiness didn't last long. Lin Wei died in a car accident. Song Qiyuan was devastated. The light that had saved him from the darkness was gone. He investigated the accident and discovered that 4 girls from the same dorm were hit by a drunk driver on their way back from dinner. Lin Wei pushed one of her roommates out of the way, but she was hit directly. The girl she saved was Zhao Shiyu. That's how Zhao Shiyu became Song Qiyuan's target. Song Qiyuan knew Zhao Shiyu. He'd met Lin Wei's roommate, who would always blush and get shy when she saw him. He knew she liked him, and after a few chance encounters, they became friends. Then, Song Qiyuan confessed his feelings, and Zhao Shiyu said yes. That was the first step in his plan for revenge. He saw Zhao Shiyu as one of Lin Wei's killers. The driver was dead, and he couldn't get to him. Fine, but Zhao Shiyu hadn't suffered at all. Why? So, he planned to torture her. His plan was to be with her, destroy her family, and make her feel his pain. Fate seemed to be on his side. By then, his biological father, Xuanhuan, had been running his wife's company for over 20 years. He was tired of his in-laws and came looking for him. Song Qiyuan didn't immediately agree to go back with his rich father. He hadn't finished taking revenge on Zhao Shiyu, but he soon found a way to get back at her. His stepfather's daughter needed a kidney transplant. Song Qiyuan, through his father's connections, discovered that Zhao Shiyu was a match and hatched a plan. That's when the original owner got screwed. The original owner, the heroine's brother, had his kidney taken instead. Later, Song Qiyuan engineered a car accident that left him paralyzed, and the hero took over the company. But after Zhao Shiyu learned the truth, she forgave Song Qiyuan after he begged and groveled. She said, "Bro, I'm sorry. Yuan didn't mean to. He knows he messed up. Can't you forgive him?" That the original owner was bedridden, looking at his sister begging him, and realized for the first time what heartbreak really meant. He'd always been good to Zhao Shiyu. After their parents died, he'd given her everything she wanted. For her sake, he'd voluntarily donated a kidney to a stranger. And even after Song Qiyuan did this to him, he couldn't bring himself to blame his sister, but at that moment, he felt nothing but sorrow. The original owner died soon after, because his refusal to forgive Song Qiyuan was standing in the way of their relationship. After his death, Zhao Shiyu grieved for a while, but with Song Qiyuan's support, she forgave him. They finally got together, free from obstacles. Chapter 93 The Abusive Heroine #039, Unjust Brother 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Shi left, Song Qiyuan eyed Zhao Shiyu cautiously. "Shi, is your brother having second thoughts about you operating on Xuelin?" "It's fine. He gave the okay before, and he didn't try to stop it just now. He was probably just worried about me. You know how my brother is, he's super protective. He wouldn't really be mad at me. Zhao Xiyu reassured Song Qiuan. Relief washed over Song Qiuan. Right. The next day, Zhao Xiyu went in for surgery. Shi Qing showed up right on time, watching as she and Song Xuelin were wheeled into the operating room together. Shi Qing and several members of the Song family stood outside, waiting for news. The Song family parents arrived, a picture of anxiety. They were clearly worried about Song Xuelin, and Song Qiuan looked stressed too, spotting Shi Qing and his assistant standing off to the side, their faces blank. Song Qiuan walked over to try and make conversation. Shi Qing, she'll be okay, don't worry. Shi Qing just grunted, seeing right through his act. He wasn't worried about Zhao Xiyu. He'd come to watch the drama unfold. Shi Qing's indifference shut Song Qiuan down quick. He scoffed inwardly and turned back to Mr. and Mrs. Song. Oh, so much for the close brother-sister act. Seeing Zhao Shiqing's attitude, it was clear he didn't give a damn about Zhao Xiyu. Guess the rumors got it wrong. Zhao Shiqing had been so against it at first. He thought that Zhao Shiqing would consider Zhao Xiyu's health and offer to donate himself. After all, Zhao Shiqing seemed to genuinely care about Zhao Xiyu. He'd seen it firsthand, but then, after some half-hearted resistance, Zhao Shiqing just caved. His face was a mask, not a trace of concern. Shiqing noticed the roller coaster of emotions playing out on Song Qiuan's face and knew what was going through his head. This guy's brain works in mysterious ways. Shiqing and his assistant sat down. Before the surgery wrapped up, his secretary called. The gist of it was, trouble at the company. The boss needed to step in, torn between his sister undergoing surgery and a company crisis. Shiqing didn't hesitate. He chose the latter. After a few words with his assistant, Shiqing left. Song Qiuan watched Shiqing stride away after taking that call. It confirmed everything he suspected. Company versus his own sister. Zhao Shiqing chose the company. Guess his sister wasn't as important as his business. Shiqing left the hospital and headed straight for the office. On the way, he checked in with the system, who filled him in. Song Qiuan's behind this, host. The system was fuming. Yeah, I figured. Shiqing wasn't fazed. Song Qiuan was using his dad's connections to mess with Mtlno company, and he timed it perfectly to enjoy the show. If Shiqing stayed at the hospital, the company would be in deep trouble. If Shiqing went to the company, Zhao Xiyu wouldn't see her brother after surgery, driving a wedge between them. Either way, Shiqing lost. But Song Qiuan didn't realize that this Shiqing wasn't the doting brother from the original plot. Faced with this kind of choice, he didn't agonize over it. He didn't give a damn about Zhao Xiyu's feelings. The atmosphere in the office was thick with tension when Shiqing arrived. His presence was like a shot of adrenaline. People seemed to breathe easier, finding their courage again. Get me the full rundown, then tell everyone to meet me in the conference room in 15. Shiqing told the secretaries outside. He walked into his office, sat down, and said to Secretary Zhou, who trailed behind him, "Give me the details, Secretary Zhou." "Of course, Mr. Zhao." Secretary Zhou explained the company's problems in detail. As she spoke, Shiqing already had a solution forming in his mind. Just like the system said, it was Song Qiuan. He'd used his father's connections to put the squeeze on Mtlno group, but it was an easy fix. Shiqing called an emergency meeting, and he quickly hammered out a plan. He spent some time at the office before getting a call from Song Qiuan. He answered, and Song Qiuan's voice, laced with fake concern, came through the speaker. "Shiqing, hey, Shiyu's out of surgery. Where are you? Is something wrong? I'm worried she'll be upset when she wakes up and you're not here. I have an emergency. She'll understand. Don't sweat it. But gotta run. Catch you later." Shiqing hung up before Song Qiuan could say another word. Song Qiuan was a real piece of work. He was dedicated to this performance and his acting skills could rival the actors he knew in the last world. He could join the entertainment industry. On the other end of the line, a sneer tugged at the corner of Song Qiuan's mouth as he heard the dial tone. Zhao Xiyu worshipped her brother. This act of abandonment would crush her. The thought of Zhao Xiyu sad and alone brought a smile to his lips. Now he could cut her off from her brother. Then she'd have no one but him. The more she leaned on him, the better he could make her suffer. As they say, the deepest wounds are inflicted by the ones you love. He wanted her to feel the pain he felt when Wei Wei was stuck at 19 years old. Why should she? If she lived, she should live in misery. A dark smile twisted Song Qiyuan's handsome face. When Zhao Xiyu woke up, she saw Song Qiyuan sitting by her bedside. Warmth filled her heart. "Yuan," she whispered. "Xiyu, you're awake. Does it hurt?" "No." Zhao Xiyu was telling the truth. The anesthesia hadn't worn off yet, so she couldn't feel any pain. She looked around the room, but her brother wasn't there. "Yuan, where's my brother?" "Shirqin got a call during your surgery. Something came up at the company," he said. "He had to rush out. He hasn't been back. Must be important." "What could be more important than me?" Zhao Xiyu felt a pang of hurt. Lately, her brother seemed different. Ever since he gave her the okay to donate a kidney to Xuanhuan, he hadn't reached out while she was in the hospital. She was the one who had to call him and tell him when the surgery was, and now he'd left before it was even over. What was so important? More important than his own sister? Song Qiyuan deliberately kept his tone vague. "It must be very important." "Yeah," Zhao Xiyu replied, disappointed. Meanwhile, Shirqin was in his office, listening to Secretary Zhou's report. Once the company crisis was contained, he headed to the hospital. Chapter 94 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Shirqin got to Zhao Xiyu's hospital room, he saw Song Qiyuan talking to her through the door's glass. Unlike before, Zhao Xiyu seemed down in the dumps, definitely not her usual self. Shirqin knocked before pushing the door open. Zhao Xiyu looked surprised to see him, then instantly turned sulky. "Bro," she whined. "Hey." Shirqin ignored her moodiness and asked, "How are you feeling?" "It hurts," she complained, now that the anesthesia was wearing off. A dull, persistent ache pulsed from her waist and abdomen. It really hurt. Seeing her pout, Shirqin didn't know how to comfort her, and frankly, didn't really want to, so he skipped the sympathy. "Just get some rest. It'll get better once the wound heals." "But it still hurts," she whined. "Well, duh. You knew this was coming when you decided to have surgery, right?" That being spoiled rotten had made Zhao Xiyu fearless. She'd always been Daddy's little princess, so she didn't expect her brother to say that. Not only was he not comforting her, but he was acting like she was asking for this pain. "Bro, you." Zhao Xiyu sputtered, too angry to finish the sentence. Shirqin was confused. He was just being honest, wasn't he? Wounds hurt. And with the world the way it was, you couldn't just magically heal. He wasn't going to do it for her, so she had to rely on painkillers and her body's own healing process to get better. Seeing her glare at him, he just sat down quietly for a while, pointedly ignoring Song Qiyuan standing nearby. Song Qiyuan, ever the sweet and gentle one, kept his mouth shut. After a few boring minutes, Shirqin said, "Get some rest. I'm heading out." They'd hired a nurse for her. If she needed comforting, Song Qiyuan was there for that, not him. Seeing she didn't respond, Shirqin just walked out. Zhao Xiyu had been waiting for her brother to apologize, but his cold, indifferent attitude threw her for a loop. Wasn't he supposed to comfort her? Why was he just leaving? Song Qiyuan, who had been sidelined from the start, was also a little surprised. Even if Zhao Shirqin didn't constantly shower his sister with affection, his attitude had changed way too fast. They looked at each other in awkward silence. Shirqin, oblivious to their thoughts, went straight home. Perfect timing, actually. The cook had already prepared dinner, so he could eat as soon as he got in. After a satisfying meal, Shirqin went to his study. Most of the company stuff was taken care of. Now, Shirqin needed to take down Song Qiyuan's biggest supporter, his biological father, Zhang Wenxian. In the original plot, Song Qiyuan was able to screw over the original owner because the original owner was careless, and also because he had Zhang Wenxian backing him. Without Zhang Wenxian, he wouldn't be such a threat. Shurqing had already asked the system to dig up dirt on Zhang Wenxian. Back in the day, Zhang Wenxian had used his looks and charm to con Wei Yilua, the only daughter of a powerful Kyoto family, into falling head over heels for him. She refused to marry anyone else and eventually married Zhang Wenxian, bringing him into her family. After the wedding, Zhang Wenxian diligently buttered up the Wei family elders and finally got a chance to join their company. He played his cards right, and over the decades, he slowly seized control, even managing to swindle a bunch of shares from Wei Lui. Now, he was the big boss of the Wei family business, when he finally had the guts to recognize Song Qiyuan as his son. Shurqing watched the whole father-son reunion unfold. It was obvious Zhang Wenxian was now seriously invested in Song Qiyuan. He'd gone from indifference to full-on doting dad, and it was pretty seamless. Shurqing could guess why he was so bold now. Zhang Wenxian and Wei Lui only had one daughter. The old man wasn't running things anymore, and his wife and daughter were too spoiled to pose any real threat. If he wanted to cut off Song Qiyuan's lifeline, dealing with Zhang Wenxian was easy. Shurqing ran through a bunch of plans, but ultimately decided to keep it simple and brutal. His mission wasn't to take down Zhang Wenxian, so he didn't need to overthink it. Happy with his plan, he went to bed and slept like a baby. The next day, Shurqing went straight to the city where Zhang Wenxian lived. Meanwhile, Zhao Xiyu was still moping in the hospital, waiting for her brother to apologize. She was mentally rehearsing how to forgive him without looking too eager, but he never showed up. Song Qiyuan stayed by Zhao Xiyu's side, playing the devoted boyfriend. Seeing her looking distracted, he guessed she was probably thinking about Zhao Shurqing. Here was his chance. He leaned closer and asked, "Xiyu, what's on your mind?" "Nothing." Zhao Xiyu forced a smile, not wanting to talk about her brother. She had always bragged about how amazing her brother was, and now that he was acting this way, she felt embarrassed. "Are you thinking about Shurqing?" "Yeah," she mumbled, then quickly added, "He must be busy." "Of course. Shurqing's got a huge company to run. It's normal he doesn't have time to visit. But me? I'm not busy. I'll always be here for you." Song Qiyuan's voice dripped with affection. "No matter how busy I get, I'll always make time for my little princess." "You're the best," Zhao Xiyu said, her gloomy mood instantly brightening. Even if her brother had changed, it didn't matter. She was getting married someday anyway, and her brother wouldn't be around forever. She had a Yuan. She would marry a Yuan and spend the rest of her life with him. She had a great boyfriend, and she should be grateful. She beamed. Shurqing heard the whole conversation through the system, but he didn't care. He was currently at a fancy club, having dinner with the head of a business partner. He was in town mostly to deal with Zhang Wenxian, but since Mtlno company also had dealings with a local business, he decided to scope things out. After dinner with the head honcho, Shurqing set out to find Zhang Wenxian. "Host, Zhang Wenxian is at the XX bar. Time for the system to do its thing." It dutifully pointed Shurqing in the right direction. Shurqing followed the address and found Zhang Wenxian at the XX bar. Chapter 95 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. XX bar, way down the hall on the third floor, the neon lights pulsed, and the air was thick with cigarette smoke and booze. Shurqing frowned and headed for a corner, waiting for Zhang Wenxian. "He's coming, host." "Got it." Zhang Wenxian had just stepped out to use the restroom. He was clearly plastered, walking with a wobble. As he rounded a corner, someone brushed past him. The bar was packed with a motley crew, and he didn't give it a second thought. After hitting the head, he went back to his private room. As Zhang Wenxian passed, Shurqing slipped him a talisman unnoticed, then walked on like nothing happened. "What kind of talisman was that, host?" the system asked, curious. It knew the host's main goal was to take down Zhang Wenxian, Song Qiyuan's sugar daddy, but the talisman Shurqing had just pulled from his inventory was a mystery. It could scan it itself, sure, but why not just ask? He. Shurqing replied coolly, "A sleeping talisman." While Zhang Wenxian hadn't directly wronged the original owner, he'd been Song Qiyuan's behind-the-scenes muscle. making it easy for Song to screw him over. Song Qiuan's smooth takeover of the company wouldn't have happened without Zhang Wenxian pulling strings. Of course, in the original storyline, the original owner's downfall wasn't just about Zhang Wenxian. It was also about loving his sister and family too much, not seeing Song Qiuan as a threat, and his failing health after donating a kidney. So, Shi decided the sleeping talisman was the quickest, easiest solution for Zhang Wenxian. This was a society of laws, after all. Let the guy sleep it off. Everything would be over when he woke up. The talisman wouldn't hurt Zhang Wenxian physically, just put him on ice for a few years. Of course, Shi couldn't guarantee what would happen when he woke up, or if he'd still be running the Wei Corporation. Mission accomplished, Shi headed back to the hotel. The XX bar reeked of cigarettes, alcohol, and other funky smells he wasn't into. This world had zero spiritual energy, so Shi couldn't shut off his sense of smell without outside help. That was why he couldn't just pinpoint Zhang Wenxian remotely and pop in. With Zhang Wenxian out of the picture, Song Qiuan wouldn't have a leg to stand on. As for Song's torment of Zhao Xiu, Shi wasn't sweating it, but he'd make sure to torment him first. If Zhao Xiu was still hung up on Song, Shi would just wash his hands of her and watch the fireworks. Hey, maybe they're soulmates. He didn't get true love, but he could give it a thumbs up since one half of the equation was his cheap sister. They kind of deserved each other, right? He couldn't believe Zhao Xiu hadn't noticed something fishy about the original owner's death, but hey, they'd been through so much. Ugh, Shi was baffled by their thought processes. He'd met some weirdos before, but these two were next level. Song Qiuan had a rough childhood, sure, but that didn't excuse his twisted thinking. Lin Wei was killed in a hit-and-run, after a well-intentioned push of Zhao Xiu. In Song Qiuan's mind, Zhao Xiu was now an accomplice in Lin Wei's death. Even if he saw things differently, he just saw Zhao Xiu was wrong and wanted revenge. But was revenge a game of seduction? I'll make you fall in love with me, then break your heart. Seriously? And Zhao Xiu, her only relative, was paralyzed in a car accident Song Qiuan orchestrated, and he'd stolen her company. She lived under his thumb every day. And she forgave him. Shi just didn't get it. The most ironic thing, Shi thought, was that after Song Qiuan and Zhao Xiu got together, he started blaming Lin Wei, acting like she was the roadblock between them. Finally, he went to Lin Wei's grave and said, "I'm sorry, I fell in love with her. Rest in peace." If this were a ghost story, Lin Wei would have paid him a visit that night. Shi got back to the hotel, cleaned up, and crashed. Meanwhile, Zhang Wenxian was still flirting with some woman in the bar's VIP room, a drink in his hand. The room was a party, rowdy. Around midnight, he started feeling sleepy. Thinking he'd had too much to drink, he asked his assistant to take him home. Back at his place, Zhang Wenxian felt completely out of it and just went to bed. He and Wei Yilua had already broken up and he moved out alone, so no one noticed anything was off. The next afternoon, the assistant called the house, when there was an important document that needed his signature, and came to look for him, after not hearing anything. The assistant asked the housekeeper, and the aunt also said that she had not seen him today. The assistant panicked and went up to his room and knocked on the door. Mr. Zhang, are you feeling unwell?" The assistant stood outside the door and knocked. When Zhang Wenxian came back yesterday, he was obviously fine, and I don't know what his condition is now. However, the assistant knocked on the door for a long time and no one answered. He felt something was wrong, so he opened the door and went in. Seeing the boss sleeping unconscious on the bed, the assistant walked over to him and found that his chest was still rising and falling slightly, and he breathed a sigh of relief. However, he soon found that something was wrong. The boss could not be woken up no matter how he called, so, the assistant who had been unable to wake up Zhang Wenxian had to call an ambulance and notify Zhang Wenxian's wife Wei Lui. By the time Shi heard about it, he was back in City A. Back home, Shi got back to work at the company. Song Qiuan had used Zhang Wenxian's connections to mess with Tingyu a while back. Shi had fixed things, but there'd still been some damage. That wouldn't happen again. Those people were willing to break contracts and cause trouble for Tingyu only because Zhang Wenxian had asked. Now that Zhang Wenxian was a vegetable, they wouldn't lift a finger for Song Qiuan. Besides, helping Song Qiuan last time had cost them. Between that and Shi payback, they wouldn't dare cross Tingyu again. Tingyu, the young boss, wasn't a pushover. Shi hadn't gone to see Zhao Xiyu since he'd returned, and she hadn't contacted him. If the original owner wanted to protect someone, Shi would bend over backwards to help. But Zhao Xiyu had been dumped and forgotten, so Shi didn't need to care. Let her go. The original owner had said. Shi was happy to oblige. Chapter 96 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A month drifted by. Zhao Xiyu contacted Shi twice, and Shi visited her in the hospital once. After that, nothing. It wasn't until she was about to be discharged that Zhao Xiyu reached out again. Hey, I'm getting discharged tomorrow. Okay. Can you come pick me up? Shi checked his schedule. He was free. Sure, he said. The main reason Shi agreed so quickly was that he wanted to see Song Qiyuan and his parents, plus Song Xuelin. Song Qiyuan was just plain weird, his brain wired differently than most people, and Song's parents. Selfish to the core. The fact that Song's father and Song Xuelin were a decent kidney match meant nothing. When Song Qiyuan was dead set on Zhao Xiyu donating, they happily played along, lying about the kidney types. In the original story, the original owner donated. Now, it was Zhao Xiyu. The whole family was self-centered. Song Xuelin was the only halfway decent one. In the original plot, she never forgot the original owner's kindness. After his car accident, she visited him several times. When she found out Song Qiyuan was responsible, she confronted him and threatened to call the cops. Song's parents found out and begged her not to. Ultimately, she chose her family, but she kept visiting the original owner. After he died, she went abroad with honors and never came back. Even though she didn't report Song Qiyuan, she was still miles ahead of Zhao Xiyu, her own sister. The original owner didn't hold it against her. Shi's take. Anyone could be better than Zhao Xiyu. Thinking about this messed up family, Shi realized he hadn't contacted them at all during the surgery. The last time he saw Zhao Xiyu, he'd rushed back to work and missed seeing them. The system kept him updated, but Shi still wanted to check things out for himself. Now that the Tingyu situation was resolved, he had time to spare and could actually relax, so, the next day, Shi headed to the hospital with his assistant and his driver, Lu Feng, same ward. When Shi walked in, Zhao Xiyu looked genuinely happy to see him, a small smile playing on her lips. You're here. His visits had been limited over the past month. And when he did show, he left quickly. She felt a pang of uncertainty. Her brother always doted on her. This sudden change in attitude had her thrown. She'd been playing the silent game, hoping he'd reach out, but it backfired. He seemed to have forgotten she even existed. Before, he was always the one checking in, showing concern. Had she done something to upset him? She remembered his reaction when she'd offered to donate a kidney. He'd gotten angry, but didn't she agree to it after all? So why was he treating her like this? Shi had no clue about the inner turmoil he was causing. He just replied, yeah. I've asked Lu Feng to take care of the discharge paperwork. Okay, thanks. The Song family knew Zhao Xiyu was getting discharged. Seeing Shi arrive, Song's father and mother hustled Song Xuelin over to offer their thanks. Song Xuelin's room was right next door, a private room paid for by the original owner. Before Shi took over, the original owner had covered her medical costs and found her a kidney to avoid letting his sister donate. Shi hadn't removed the funding, because he could see the original owner liked her, and also because Zhao Xiyu was so desperate to donate, but that was where the help ended. Mr. Zhao, are you taking Xiaoyu home today? Song's father asked, stepping forward. Because Shi was so cold, the Song family treated him with extreme politeness, even more respect than they showed the original owner, who had actually paid for the kidney. Yep, Shi said curtly. We just wanted to thank you for supporting Xuelin. She's recovering well, thanks to you. Song's father sounded genuinely grateful, though Shi could still see his underlying selfishness. Song's mother chimed in, thank you, Mr. Zhao. You're welcome. Song Xuelin, still a junior high student, was wearing a hospital gown. Thank you, Mr. Zhao, for paying for my medical expenses. I'll pay you back when I grow up. Thank you. After the thank yous, the Song family headed back. They'd probably said similar things to Zhao Xiyu earlier and didn't linger. Song Xuelin needed to stay for a little longer before being discharged. After the Song family left, Lu Feng completed the paperwork and signaled they were good to go. Zhao Xiyu grew concerned seeing his cold demeanor. She suddenly remembered something a Yuan had said. During her recovery, when her wound hurt and her brother hadn't visited, she felt low. A Yuan tried to cheer her up every day, as they reminisced about the past. The conversation turned to her brother. Xiyu, what's up with Shurqin? It's been days, and he hasn't even checked on you. Is the company more important? Song Qiuan always spoke highly of her brother, so this comment caught her off guard. She and her brother had been close since childhood. After their parents died, they relied on each other even more, but ever since he'd started the company, he'd been absorbed in work and hadn't talked to her as much. Now, seeing his stern expression, she felt even more uncertain. Could it be that she really was less important than his work? Shurqin, oblivious to her thoughts, asked the nurse to help her pack. As Shurqin was about to leave, Song Qiuan showed up, fashionably late. Shurqin, he said with a smile, greeting Shurqin. Shurqin wasn't in the mood for charades, so he just grunted. Undeterred, Song Qiuan walked over to Shurqin, acting like they were best buds. Busy lately? Shurqin glanced at him. So. Then why haven't you visited? She's been really down. Something came up. Song Qiuan. Didn't you just say you weren't that busy? Hopeless, but if he wanted to mess with Zhao Xiyu and make her suffer, he had to get past Zhao Shurqin. He'd wanted to use his biological father's connections to take down the Zhao family, but his father was now in a vegetative state. His father's company was now controlled by his sister. He could only rely on himself, so, he had to infiltrate the Zhao family and destroy everything they had to avenge Weiwei. But why had Zhao Shurqin changed so much? He never spoke so harshly before. It seemed he still had to start with Zhao Xiyu. With newfound resolve, he flashed a gentle smile and approached Zhao Xiyu. Chapter 97 The Abusive Heroine #039, S. Unjust Brother 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiyu, you're getting out of the hospital. How are you feeling? Song Qiuan asked, walking over to her, his voice full of concern. I'm okay, Yuan, she replied, forcing a smile, knowing he'd heard his brother's dismissive tone earlier and feeling a little stung by it. Sorry I stepped out for a bit. I'll take you home from here. Xiyu gave him a genuine smile. Sounds good. For a moment, they just looked at each other, lost in their own little world. Let's roll, Shurqin said, cutting through the awkwardness with a bluntness that wasn't exactly welcome. Right, okay. Zhao Xiyu snapped back to reality, noticing Shurqin was already headed out the door. Thanks to the nurse's care, she was recovering well. Weaker than usual, sure, but walking was no problem. They followed Shurqin and Lu Feng out of the hospital. Getting into the car, Shurqin turned to Song Qiuan. You don't need to come home with us. Your sister still needs observation. Head back, your parents are keeping an eye on Xiao Shui. Song Qiuan was a good actor, sure, but Shurqin wasn't directing a movie anymore. He wasn't in the mood for a performance. Song Qiuan looked taken aback. But I want to see Xiyu home safe. I'll come back after that. My parents are watching Xiao Shui. Shurqin saw the gratitude welling up in Zhao Xiyu's eyes, *bravo*, he thought. Oscar-worthy stuff, but is he buying it? Nope. She's coming home with me. You don't trust me? Shurqin asked coldly. No, that's not it. I just want to make sure she gets home okay. I didn't mean anything by it. Song Qiuan sounded like a damsel in distress. Seeing the standoff, Zhao Xiyu jumped in to smooth things over. Knowing she couldn't cross her brother, she said to Song Qiuan, you go on back. I'll call you when I get home. Okay, Xiyu, promise you'll let me know as soon as you're there. Song Qiuan relented. I will. With that, she saw her brother and his assistant were already in the car. so she hopped in. The car pulled away smoothly. Lu Feng focused on the road in the driver's seat while Xuanhuan rode shotgun, chatting with his system. Zhao Xiyu, alone in the back, stared blankly ahead, replaying the events of the past few weeks in her mind. Once they got home, Zhao Xiyu headed straight for her room, and Xuanhuan went to his study. Lu Feng, with nothing else to do, was told he could head home early. Lu Feng practically bounced out of the office. What's gotten into the boss lately? He wondered. He's so decisive and efficient. His attitude had done a complete 180, especially toward Miss Zhao Xiyu. Before, Lu Feng had seen him doting on his sister, like an overprotective dad. Now, they acted like barely acquainted siblings. Lu Feng didn't know what had happened between them. But hey, his paycheck hadn't shrunk, in fact, it had grown. That was all that mattered, so, Lu Feng went home whistling a happy tune. In his study, Xuanhuan had papers spread out in front of him. He looked busy, but he was actually strategizing with the system about how to make Song Qiuan suffer the kind of revenge that would leave him wishing he were dead. Now that Zhao Xiyu was out of the hospital and Tingyu had been dealt with, it was time to go after him. Things had settled down with the Wei family, too. With Mr. Wei's help, Wei Shihan had finally wrestled control. Song Qiuan couldn't count on his biological father anymore. Even if Zhang Wenxian woke up in a few years, all she'd have to look forward to was life in a nursing home. His daughter wasn't as harmless as he thought. Seeing Song Qiuan still lost in his own little fantasy world, Xuanhuan didn't know what to think. The original owner wanted him to make Song Qiuan pay, to really make him suffer, but Xuanhuan and the system, both with a relatively healthy outlook, weren't sure how to deal with someone like that. Host, what do you think would actually hurt him? The system asked. Xuanhuan was stumped. Song Qiuan didn't seem to care about anything. Lin Wei, who he claimed to care about, was gone. Now, he seemed detached from everyone. He was probably starting to fall for Zhao Xiyu because of the show, but he hadn't realized it yet. Was Xuanhuan supposed to go after Zhao Xiyu? Not only would Xuanhuan never do that, but the original owner wouldn't want him to either. Zhao Xiyu might not have been the best sister, but she was still family, someone the original owner had spoiled for years. He might ignore her, but he wouldn't directly harm her. They debated for a while and decided that nothing they could do would truly hurt Song Qiuan, except maybe something physical. While Xuanhuan and the system were deep in thought, Zhao Xiyu was on a video call with Song Qiuan. "Yuan, I'm home safe now, you can stop worrying. Good, get some rest. I'll come by in a few days." He gave her an adoring look through the screen. "Okay." Zhao Xiyu couldn't help but smile. Then, remembering something, she added, "My brother wasn't very nice earlier. I'm sorry for him. He must be stressed about something, so don't take it personally." "It's okay, I understand," Song Qiuan replied. Zhao Xiyu was relieved he didn't seem upset. Her brother's attitude had shifted dramatically lately. She was already anxious and confused. She didn't want to see any more conflict between the two people she cared about most. As they video chatted, the system, eavesdropping, bristled at Zhao Xiyu's words. What had Xuanhuan done wrong? Why was she apologizing to Song Qiuan on his behalf? The system complained to Xuanhuan. Host, she just apologized for you to that Song Qiuan, humph. Xuanhuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Don't worry about it. She can do whatever she wants, it doesn't change anything for me. True. The system thought, feeling slightly less annoyed. Xuanhuan considered his options and decided to go with direct physical action. Why learn from Song Qiuan and go through so much hassle? You can't feel the pain if the needle doesn't prick you. Like Zhao Xiyu, in the original plot, Song Qiuan's revenge had been borne by the original owner. All the pain and suffering had been inflicted on him, which had made it easy for her to say forgive and shamelessly ask him to forgive Song Qiuan, so, forget the inner turmoil and the tortures worse than death. Mess with the body, and the heart would follow. Yes, that's it. Xuanhuan rummaged through his inventory and found a suitable talisman, placing it in a prominent spot. Decision made, he waited for Song Qiuan to offer himself up. Chapter 98 The Abusive Heroine #039, Unjust Brother 8 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xuanhuan didn't have to wait long. Song Qiuan came over 3 days later. That afternoon, Xuanhuan got home from work and found them chatting in the living room. "Hey, Xuanhuan," Song Qiuan said, standing up and being all polite. "Brother, you're back," Zhao Xiu chimed in. "Yeah, I'm gonna head upstairs. You guys have fun." As Xuanhuan walked past Song Qiuan, he slipped him the talisman he'd carefully prepared. Xuanhuan's cold vibe definitely made things awkward. Zhao Xiu felt like her brother was icing her out, while Song Qiuan thought Xuanhuan was just getting more arrogant and irritating. Once Xuanhuan was out of sight, Song Qiuan said, "Xiu, don't mention what you were just saying to Xuanhuan. He seems to be in a mood lately. It's no big deal, he'll totally go for it." "Sure, but find the right time to bring it up. If he says no, it's cool," Song Qiuan said, all understanding. Seeing that, Zhao Xiu wanted to help him even more. "You're so amazing, how could he say no? Just you wait." "Alright, I'll be waiting." That they talked for a while before Song Qiuan left. When Xuanhuan came back downstairs, Song Qiuan was gone, but he didn't ask about it. At dinner, Zhao Xiu made a point of eating with Xuanhuan. Seeing how she was acting, Xuanhuan knew something was up, because Zhao Xiu had just had surgery. She was on a special diet. So, for a few days after she got back from the hospital, they had been eating separately. Now, seeing her practically shouting, "Ask me what's wrong." Xuanhuan pretended not to notice and just ate. Zhao Xiu, frustrated that he wasn't picking up on her vibe, felt a little angry and bummed. Finally, when she saw he was full and about to put down his chopsticks, she said, "Brother, I need to talk to you." Xuanhuan slowly put down his chopsticks. "What's up?" "Well, a Yuan's got an internship coming up. Do you think you could hook him up at your company?" Zhao Xiu asked, a little embarrassed. The old her wouldn't have even thought about asking, but with his recent change in attitude, she was a little nervous. Xuanhuan looked at her, head down, avoiding eye contact. He paused. "No. Brother, I know you're the best." "Wait, what?" "Why not?" That she figured this would go like all the other times. Even if he'd been a bit distant lately, they'd been close for so long, he'd say yes to make her happy, but he actually said no. "Because the company's not hiring right now," Xuanhuan said flatly. "A Yuan's really good, trust me. He'll be a big help if you bring him on." Xuanhuan, he really wanted to say he didn't believe her, but he decided to drop it. The original owner had already said everything that needed to be said in the original plot. More talking would be pointless. Mtlno doesn't need more excellent people, and we're not hiring. Plenty of companies take interns. You need to focus on your health, not him. But he's my boyfriend. Can't you just find him a spot? Zhao Xiu tried again, trying to guilt him. Precisely because he's your boyfriend, I'm not helping him. If he wants to be with you, he's got to make it on his own. That's final. He's not getting into Mtlno. Brother. Xuanhuan ignored her and left the dining room. He wasn't about to cave to Zhao Xiu's demands. Let Song Qiuan into Mtlno. He was the original owner's target for revenge, and a falling out was inevitable. What was the point? Besides, he didn't want to watch Song Qiuan putting on an act and running around. Plus, his current role wasn't a director, so seeing such a good actor was pointless. In the original plot, the original owner had given Song Qiuan a kidney. Even with good care afterward, his health had suffered. Then, Zhao Xiu had suggested bringing Song Qiuan into the company to help. Seeing her hopeful face and Song Qiuan's charming act, the original owner had agreed. Song Qiuan had exceeded expectations and did a great job after joining the company. Soon after, Zhao Xiu and Song Qiuan got engaged. Seeing that Song Qiuan was now his future brother-in-law and thriving at the company, the original owner had given him important projects. Unexpectedly, this sped up his downfall. 2 years later, Song Qiuan had learned the company's secrets and arranged a car accident for him. The accident hadn't killed him, but it had left his lower body paralyzed, and his remaining kidney was constantly failing. Song Qiuan had seized the opportunity to take over the company, then he turned on Zhao Xiu. And their toxic love story had begun. Song Chiyuan humiliated Zhao Shiyu every day, saying things like, "I don't love you, I'm only with you for this, you can't even compare to Weiwei, and your brother's in this state because of me, it's all your fault." Zhao Shiyu was in constant pain, and she forgot all about her half-paralyzed brother. The original owner lay helplessly in a hospital bed, a useless vegetable. Thinking about it, Xuanhuan felt sick. Those two were so clueless. Now that Zhang Wenxian had been diagnosed as brain dead, Song Chiyuan had no one to rely on. To carry out his plan, he had to take down Xuanhuan, so, he must be even more desperate to get into Mtlno than before, but Xuanhuan wasn't going to let him. Besides, with all those talismans, Song Chiyuan's body wouldn't be able to handle too much trouble. Xuanhuan wasn't worried. Song Chiyuan was the one who should be freaking out. After Xuanhuan left, Zhao Shiyu's lips were pressed into a tight line, and her face was pale. She didn't say a word, and after a moment, she stumbled back to her room. She hadn't mentioned they'd be family soon, so why was her brother being so stubborn? She had promised a yuan she'd get him into Mtlno, but her brother had refused so firmly. How could she face a yuan now? How could she tell him? Chapter 99 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xuanhuan knew he had to deal with his problematic stepsister, but he was determined to keep the promises he'd made to himself. Mtlno was founded by her deceased husband, but she had nothing to do with it. Song Chiyuan went straight home after leaving the Zhao residence, and his sister, Song Xuelin, in the hospital. Please. Were they really that close? Their parents were already there. He wasn't about to join that party. Back at his place, Song Chiyuan waited for good news from Zhao Shiyu. He still believed that no matter how much Zhao Xuanhuan had changed lately, he wouldn't reject Zhao Shiyu over something so small. Once he got into Mtlno, he put his real plans into motion. It would be a crying shame to waste his biological father's connections. Now, the guy was in a coma for some reason, unable to help himself. The people who once helped him run Mtlno group were ignoring him. If he'd gone back with him before, even if something happened, he could have gotten his hands on some of his property. Now, he was coming up empty. The thought made Song Chiyuan feel down, but even feeling bummed, if given another chance, he'd stay put without hesitation. The person who killed Weiwei hadn't paid for it yet, and he wasn't about to let her live so freely, getting away with murder. If the law couldn't touch her, then he'd make her pay himself. Song Chiyuan had big plans, but soon discovered his body couldn't handle what he had in mind. Something was definitely wrong with him. When Song Chiyuan woke up the next day, his whole body, except for his head, ached as if he'd been beaten to a pulp. He stumbled out of bed and found that he was hurting everywhere. He took off his shirt, but couldn't find any bruises on the sore spots. That was weird. Totally confused, Song Chiyuan gritted his teeth and went to the hospital. So, a few days later, when Zhao Shiyu finally worked up the nerve to tell Song Chiyuan that her brother wouldn't let him work at Mtlno, she found out her boyfriend was in the hospital. Yuan, what happened? Zhao Shiyu rushed into the ward, looking worried when she saw Song Chiyuan in bed. Shiyu, what are you doing here? Song Chiyuan sat up, looking weak. He wasn't faking it this time, he truly felt like crap. His body still ached all over after days of this. I came as soon as I heard. Yuan, where does it hurt? Is it serious? Zhao Shiyu was genuinely worried about Song Chiyuan. He seemed fine just a few days ago, so how did he end up in the hospital? It's nothing, just a little something. Zhao Shiyu moved closer to Song Chiyuan. I don't believe it. Let me see where you're hurt. She reached for his clothes. Ahem, you two talk first. I'll just step out. Seeing them acting like no one else was there, his mom awkwardly said. Hearing her voice, Zhao Shiyu noticed Song's mother sitting nearby. She was a little embarrassed. She'd been too focused on Yuan to notice anyone else. Now all she could do was call out, hello, auntie. Shiyu, you two have a good chat. I've got something to do, so I'll be going. Okay. After Song's mother left, Zhao Shiyu saw a bowl of porridge next to the bed. My mom just brought me food, Song Chiyuan explained. Yeah. Zhao Shiyu's expression turned serious when she saw that more than half of the porridge was still there. Yun, tell me the truth, what's going on? Why are you in the hospital? I just got out, and now you're in. How did this happen? Her voice choked up, as if she'd found a release. Zhao Xiyu threw herself into Song Qiuan's arms and started crying. She'd been stuck in the hospital for days. Her wound ached, and she couldn't eat. Only Yun stayed with her. Her brother's attitude had changed completely. He didn't care about her anymore and stopped visiting. After she was released from the hospital, her brother became colder. He even refused to let Yun work at Tingyu, even though she begged. Now, Yun was like this too. What was she supposed to do? She suddenly felt lost and exhausted. Song Qiuan felt a little annoyed by Zhao Xiyu's crying. She was squeezing him too tight, and his chest was starting to hurt. His whole body already ached, and now she was pressing down on him as if he was carrying a boulder, but he couldn't exactly tell her to get off. He just had to endure it. When Zhao Xiyu finally stopped crying, she lifted her head and felt embarrassed. She must look awful crying like that in front of him. Wiping away the tears, Zhao Xiyu said, with red eyes, I'm sorry. I got carried away. I couldn't control myself. It's okay. It's my fault for worrying you, Song Qiuan said, forcing a smile. Damn, he felt terrible. He had come to the hospital to see a patient, but he didn't even ask where the patient's injury was, so he rushed over to him. What if the injury was on the chest? Fortunately, he didn't feel chest pain, he felt pain all over his body. Zhao Xiyu had no idea that Song Qiuan was complaining about him in his heart. She was lowering her head because of his embarrassing behavior just now. When he heard what he said, he looked touched. Yun, it's not your fault. It's not my fault either. It's just fate. Saying that, Zhao Xiyu looked at Song Qiuan, and when she saw his pale face, she remembered why she had just cried. Then she continued to ask, Yun, where exactly did you get hurt, and why did you need to be hospitalized? It's nothing. I just ache all over, and I don't know why. I want the truth. Zhao Xiyu said seriously. Song Qiuan, I'm telling the truth. After all, how can he know what disease it is when even the hospital can't find it? Xiyu, I'm telling the truth. The day after I came back from visiting you. After listening to Song Qiuan's explanation, Zhao Xiyu knew his situation. What disease was it? Even the hospital couldn't figure it out. Does it hurt a lot? Not too much, thankfully. Zhao Xiyu talked to Song Qiuan in the ward for a long time before she left. After she came out, she went to Song Xuelin's ward, and sure enough, she found Song's father and mother there. Sister Xiyu, are you here to see me? Song Xuelin was happy to see her. Yeah, Xiao Xue. Are you feeling any better? Much better. I can leave in a few days. That's great. After chatting with Song Xuelin for a while, Zhao Xiyu pulled Song's mother aside. Once they were in an empty corner, Zhao Xiyu asked, Auntie, do you know what's wrong with Yun? Song's mother knew she'd been pulled aside for this, but she honestly didn't know. Chapter 100 The Abusive Heroine #039, S Unjust Brother 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. She and her son had a strained relationship, and he kept her in the dark about everything. All she knew was that Song Qiuan had shown up at the hospital out of the blue a few days ago, complaining of aches and pains, but after a thorough checkup, the doctors couldn't find anything wrong. He only contacted her after he'd been admitted for observation. When she tried to get information out of him, he clammed up. She only found out what was going on from the doctor. Still, she couldn't tell Zhao Xiyu any of that. Zhao Xiyu's family was loaded, and as a prospective mother-in-law, she needed to be on her best behavior so she'd be taken care of in the future. As for her son, well, he still held a grudge about the beatings and scoldings from his childhood. He wasn't exactly someone she could count on. After mulling it over, a pained expression settled on Song's mother's face as she began to speak. Xiyu, Yun's illness just appeared out of nowhere. The hospital's baffled. They can't figure out what's going on. He's been through so much since he was a little boy. He grew up without a father. We were basically orphans, the both of us. The other kids used to pick on him because of it. It just breaks my heart. Mother Song seemed lost in that terrible memory, her eyes starting to water. Zhao Xiyu was getting pulled into the scene too. She could practically picture a lonely, bullied Song Qiuan, and her own eyes began to well up. Seeing her reaction, Mother Song knew she was reeling her in and kept up the performance. I'm an orphan myself. My mom and I were all alone back then. It wasn't until I met your Uncle Song that we were able to live like a normal family, and Yuan slowly came out of his shell. And now, he's about to graduate from college, he has a beautiful and caring girlfriend like you, but, fate's just cruel sometimes. Mother Song finished, choking back sobs. Even though it was mostly an act, thinking about raising her son by herself back then made her genuinely sad, and real tears began to flow. Zhao Xiyu's face was streaked with tears as well. Her Yuan had such a difficult childhood. After they both cried for a while, Zhao Xiyu composed herself and looked at Song's mother. She seemed kinder than ever, so she tried to comfort her. Auntie, don't be sad. Yuan's going to get better, I know it. Yes, I believe he will too, Song's mother said, grabbing Zhao Xiyu's hand. They looked at each other, their faces full of affection, like a real mother and daughter. Yeah. Zhao Xiyu replied. She vowed to herself that she would stick by Song Qiuan, no matter what. If he was sick, she'd be there to help him get treatment. If they couldn't figure it out at this hospital, they'd go to another one. If they couldn't figure it out in the country, they'd go abroad. There were so many countries and so many people out there. Someone had to be able to cure him. She hadn't even thought about who would foot the bill. Shi Qing and the system were speechless as they watched the scene unfold at the hospital. Host, Song's mother, and Zhao Xiyu are laying it on thick. Aren't they worried Song Qiuan will call them out on it? Zhao Xiyu knows it's a sore spot for Song Qiuan, and she's not going to be the one to bring it up. Besides, even if Song Qiuan knew Song's mother was making things up to Zhao Xiyu, he wouldn't say anything. He's always been sensitive about that dark period in his life. The hospital equipment couldn't diagnose Song Qiuan's condition. Shi Qing watched as Zhao Xiyu ran around for him, exhausted and out of breath. She wasn't in the best health to begin with, and she needed to take good care of herself after losing a kidney. She'd been staying home lately, and whenever Shi Qing saw her, she looked weak and fragile. Now, she was throwing caution to the wind for the person she loved. Zhao Xiyu stayed at the hospital for 2 days before coming home. As soon as she got back, she sought out Shi Qing. Brother, can you help Yuan? Shi Qing asked, feigning ignorance. Help with what? Yuan has some kind of illness, but nobody knows what it is. He doesn't have any wounds, and his organs are fine, but he's in constant pain. I've been doing some research, and there's hardly any research on this kind of thing here. Can you let me take him abroad for treatment? Shi Qing looked at his naive sister, acting shocked. What? Song Qiuan sick? What's going on? Break up with him, quick, Zhao Xiyu. She didn't expect her brother to say that. She was stunned for a moment, unable to process it. When she realized what he'd said, her expression turned to disbelief. Brother, what are you talking about? Why would you want me to break up with Yuan? That the system saw the exchange and started cracking up in Shi Qing's mind. Haha, she's speechless. Shi Qing ignored the increasingly sentient system and continued his performance. Xiyu, didn't you just say that Song Qiuan has some mystery illness that nobody can figure out? If you don't break up with him and stay with him, what's going to happen to you? Shi Qing said, adopting a serious and concerned tone. Brother, you weren't like this before. Why would you want me to dump him just because he's sick? Zhao Xiyu was still incredulous. Yuan had been there for her when she was in the hospital. And now, her brother wanted her to ditch him just because he was sick. Was her brother really that fickle? Shi Qing watched her face cycle through a range of emotions and played his part. He said, with a grave expression, because now I understand that you're grown up and you have your own ideas. You're going to leave me and start your own family someday, so you need to be careful about the decisions you make. Hearing her brother's sincere words, Zhao Xiyu began to understand his sudden change in attitude. She studied him carefully. Had he gotten older? No. He'd just come back from work, wearing a well-tailored suit, standing tall and straight, and looking more handsome than usual. Brother, I really like him, you know. Yun had such a hard childhood. He didn't have a dad, so the other kids were always picking on him. Things got a little better after Aunt Song married Uncle Song. Now, he's about to graduate, and this happens. As she spoke, Zhao Shiyu thought about Yun's sad childhood and started to choke up. Shurqing, system, they knew all about his sad childhood, but they also knew he was a degenerate. It turned out that Zhao Shiyu was quick to sympathize with others, which made it so easy for her to forgive in the end. Shurqing understood that some people spent their whole lives trying to heal from their childhood trauma. But he couldn't understand people who wanted to drag innocent people down with them. Because they'd had a rough start. I feel for him, I really do. But, Shuryu, you need to think about the consequences you'll face if you choose to stay with him. I have thought about it, brother. So, are you saying it's okay if I take him abroad for treatment?